you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning.
Morning viewers, and welcome back to the Tobago Updates morning show, coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough, Tobago. It is 7:22 a.m. and as we welcome you back, we are pleased to welcome on set from the Division of Education, Research and Technology, School Supervisor 3, Sherry-Ann Rollocks Hackett. Morning, and welcome to you.
Good morning, Mr. Street. Good morning, Tobago. Good morning, all educators out there. My privilege to be here.
All right, so as we get the conversation started this morning, we're going from the very broad perspective in the first instance. Some know you from very early in your years in the context that's up at Speyside High,
yes.
certainly setting and blazing a trail, okay. And then heading on in with this kind of knowledge and experience, years in the service, to head on into school supervision.
Yes.
So as School Supervisor 3, let's start from that perspective. Your unit and your section, what's the broad and overarching responsibility for school supervision?
Okay, I like the fact that you use the word broad, because the role and the responsibilities really broad and expansive. I want to start by saying that the unit was first birthed back in the 1850s. That's how long we have something like this, with an inspectorate system. Then you had school inspectors, and eventually the role was changed to education officers in the 1950s, and then in the mid-1960s it was enshrined in the Education Act as school supervisors. So the unit is the School Supervision and Management Unit. It is headed by the SS3, that's myself, and we have one SS2 and 2 SS1s at the division currently. Our span of control involves all aspects of school operations. So we are generally responsible for the operations of schools, and that includes every aspect, both curricular, co-curricular, administration, examinations, to some extent, in ensuring that the work of the school is conducted in keeping with the Education Act, which is the fundamental act that guides education in Trinidad and Tobago, and all the various regulations of the public service and the teaching service are adhered to in that administration.
All right. So, and you see why I would have mentioned broad, having some insight into the extent.
Yes.
Now, tell us a little bit. I know you mentioned in terms of 2 SS1s, the responsibilities in terms of, so they're responsible for what levels in terms of our school operations,
so
just for the benefit of our general public.
Yes, the SS2 is the most senior SS1 within the area of the primary schools. So we sort of specialize within the unit. So the SS2 and the SS1s, they are responsible for the primary schools. Each person has certain schools that they are responsible for, and the SS3 is responsible largely for the secondary schools. In spite of that, the SS3 has responsibility for all the schools on the island.
All right.
All right. We also have our ECCE, and those schools are guided by our coordinators in that area.
All right, excellent. We've been seeing happening in some of our schools, and unfortunately, when the great things happen, there's minimal publicity.
Yes.
But when the challenges occur, the school fights, the indiscipline, etc., there's extensive publicity.
Yes.
Tell us from your perspective, as School Supervisor 3, how is the division in terms of responding to these kinds of concerns, and your thoughts generally, particularly, as I said, in these times where social media takes it far and wide very quickly?
Yes, I think as a nation, we are all concerned about the level of violence that we see at times via social media coming out of our school system, involving our students. And at one point in time, you saw a lot of the incidents involving our male students, but we also see our female students who are very much involved. And it's quite unfortunate. But, coming out of COVID, we recognize that, that period, probably of confinement, has, to some extent, created additional issues with our children. as far as coping and dealing with conflict. Now, at the Division of Education, Research and Technology, we have adopted a multi-pronged approach to deal with the issue of discipline at the level of the schools. Nationally, we are guided by the National Code of Conduct, where we have a disciplinary matrix where schools utilize that in dealing with students. And in addition to that, we believe in restorative justice and also in positive behavior management. So that's one of the things we have been encouraging principals to do. It's not to use a punitive approach in dealing with students who may go, in errant of the rules and regulation of the schools, but how do we reform them in a very, conscious way, in a very meticulous manner to bring about, a rehabilitation. We also have the Learning Enrichment Center up at Hope, and we are very proud of that. That is another reflection of our focus on rehabilitating the student. So in the past, students were suspended. They will be at home, and while they're at home, some of them engage in all sorts of activities and so. So at this center, instead of sending them at home, they are sent to the center, and the center manager is Mrs. Woods James. She's there, and there's a staff there. We have they follow a curriculum, and we have members of the Student Support Service. They visit and they interact with the students there, and they speak to their various needs. We have members of the community, stakeholders, members from the police service and other services that will go in there and interact with those children towards rehabilitating them. And that is one area that we are proud of. We also have our safety officers. Mm-hmm. Only recently we employed additional safety officers in our schools to ensure that even on the compound, you have persons there, apart from our deans and our principals and teachers, to ensure the safety of every single child.
And would you say that we've come to a more challenging time now?
Oh, yes.
Where the school system, because we have seen beyond just the students,
yes,
parents,
yes,
some are taking it into their own hands.
Yes.
What's your thoughts and perspective on that? Because I don't know whether that will still be within the full remit of the Division of Education, or some people would say, call the police for them, they're big and they are sense. What's your perspective and your take from that instance, and probably even your words of advice to parents?
Well, the school and the home, we have to work together. And it is fundamental that we do so in the interests of our children. Now, sometimes you find that the values of the schools might be in opposition to that of the home. And that's when we have conflict. I think right now, there's a video going around in social media, where in Guyana there was an incident involving student, parent, and teachers. And that in itself underscored the need for us to work together and to collaborate in the interests of the children. Now, at times, when parents have issues, they will come to the division, to the school supervision unit again, and they will lodge their complaint. And we encourage them to come. If you feel you're not getting satisfaction, come to us. Let us have, the Bible says, let us reason together. Let us talk about it, and let us see how we can work together in the interests of the child.
All right. Now, another area we want to touch on, we have seen, within that period of the pandemic and even current, the division has some level of focus in terms of training and ensuring that your teachers and your educators are not just well-equipped, but also current in terms of really trying to connect and to have the outreach. I had the opportunity being a part of a session where I think you dealt with senior and middle management
yes,
in terms of coming out, and you really saw the camaraderie. And when you heard the stories, you smile because you start to see teachers in their own zone supporting and providing each other with this very important factor. Tell us a little bit about training and development coming out of the Division of Education, Research and Technology for our teachers.
Right. Now, the training is also one of the critical remit of the school supervisors, as far as ensuring that the principals and the various levels of management at the level of the school are prepared and equipped to do what they are required to do. So we held a training entitled Leveraging Middle Management Leadership. And that focused on 120 participants at various levels of middle management at the primary and the secondary schools. So you had your heads of departments, you had your deans, and you had your senior teachers and vice principals who were part of that. And that training sought to focus our middle managers on their critical responsibility, core responsibilities towards being more effective and ensuring that the work of the school is conducted in a way that leads to students' excellence and performance. And also ensuring that they recognize the important role of school development planning, that we have to sit and collaborate and work together to be able to carve out a plan, a trajectory as to where you will take this particular institution, or and within the institution, the various departments and the various levels and aspects of the school. So we're very, very proud of that. Coming out of that, we have seen some teachers going back to school and utilizing the skills that they learned. I went to visit a school recently, and as is, I want to big them up a little this morning, Signal Hill. And, they showed me a program that they have developed called 800 Tips. And we're talking recently about discipline at the school. And that 800 Tips program that they have, it's an app really, that they develop for their students at their school to report acts of indiscipline. The student themselves, whether it is bullying, etc. And that information gets to the teachers, the deans, in real time. And I said to the principal and the teacher who is involved in leading that is something that we'll want to share with other schools, because one of the mandates of the division at this point in time and of the nation is to ensure digitization. And once we are moving in a direction like that, it's saying that we are on the right track. So I encourage things like that. And before that, earlier this year, we also had our principal conference, which is also another remit of school supervisors. We ensure that every term we are required to have a conference with our principals and our leaders. So earlier in this year, the focus was on digitization. So we looked at developing the processes and systems that principals and leaders would need in order to make their schools effective. The featured speaker came out of the office of the Minister of Digital Transformation, and it was well attended. And I am also saying that at this point in time, we have many schools who are actively taking some of the forms and systems that were manual and leading to digitization. That also led to the formation of a committee. Now we have a district leadership team at the division that is comprised of school supervision, curriculum, and student support service, research, and also IT. Other units are invited as need be.
Right.
And coming out of that, we have also established a digitization subcommittee. And their responsibility is to do the necessary investigation and come up with a recommendation as to how, at our level, at the technical level, we can lead in digitization as far as the division is concerned. So some of the data that we have lying around, report books and all these sorts of things, to make them digital, and even the community cards, record cards, that captures the data on students, that all those things are digitized.
Right? I'm happy you mentioned that, because I'm hoping there would be some kind of discussion. I particularly appreciated during the pandemic period, receiving your child's report via email. And then you had the necessary discussions with the teacher about it and so on. But I see where some schools have reverted to the book. So I'm hoping that we can do both. If you're definitely going to go back with the book, but still have that opportunity where the digital send me a record, you know, I have it, we come in, we sit down. Even if I have to come in, sit down, discuss, and then you get it via email. So that parents still have that flexibility. It's as I have said, the pandemic has shown us where we can do so much online. I would hate for us in 2023 to go back to a state where we're reverting to everything in person as 2019, when we can still maximize, you know, in these areas. So I'm very happy to hear about the connection, particularly in terms of the greater utilization of technology. Now, one of the other areas that we certainly wanted to get that perspective on, beyond digitalization, what we have seen over time is the combined effort of schools, and particularly how do you feel sport has contributed to building that energy and excitement? And I know I'm talking sport, I'm talking intercall, I'm talking things that track will certainly, that competitive element and spirit within our school system. How have you seen that working in the Tobago space?
Well, that is alive and well. I mean, sometimes you can't contain the schools. The schools are very much into branding. And ensuring that, you know, they are seen and they are visible and they are heard at times, you know. I remember recently there was a competition and you had Scarborough Second involved in that competition, and their battle cry was that even though they're going down into the sea, nobody beating them, you know. So all of that reflects the camaraderie and how it brings the school together as one unit, you know, with a singular focus. We just held very successfully the National Track and Field, Secondary School Track and Field competition here in Tobago. Usually our children will have to travel to Trinidad to participate in that. This year, this is the second year in running, that they came to Tobago to hold the finals, and it was quite successful. And the thing about it, at the end of the day, Tobago topped the performance with Signal Hill again, and Roxbow Secondary. And we want to say kudos to Roxbow Secondary for you know, the excellent performance that they displayed during that meet. And at the primary level, we had our primary school sports and track and field also. We have cricket taking place. We also have basketball just recently ended, netball, and some of our netballers have also graduated into the national level. They're on the national team. And all of these things we celebrate. So we celebrate both the curricular aspect, the hardcore academic, and also the co-curricular. What I usually say and remind principals and teachers is that not all our children will find success or will come into their own with the narrow academic. For some students, their moment of glory, their self-actualization will take place on a field of play. And we have to create those opportunities for those children to also self-actualize and realize their goals and experience success.
Yes. And, you know, I'm very pleased with that, because you see, folks, what we're highlighting here today is the various aspects of achievement, and let's not just focus on the negative, because I firmly believe we have got to be the ones to push that continued growth and development and building out our education system. And as we go ahead.
And, you know, as you spoke to that, we have student councils at all our secondary schools and some of our primary schools. And there we see student leadership. And I saw recently, coming out of the student council at Bishop's High School, that they were hosting workshops, bringing in with the under the guidance of their teachers, obviously, bringing in key personnel to speak to real issues that the students within their schools are grappling with. And that's, you know, I said kudos, congratulations, because that is a kind of leadership. We are preparing these children for citizenship. And, you know, we will come off the stage at some point in time and they have to take charge. And we have to ensure, sometimes we sit back and we bemoan the quality of leaders we have today. But the responsibility is entrusted to us now to ensure that the leaders of tomorrow are those upright persons with integrity who will put nation before self.
Yeah, and I definitely have to agree, you know. This morning is that kind of time to shout out people like Miss Ramna Ryan. Very
Bishop High School.
Even
she was a leader in the head of the Tobago Secondary School Track and Field, and part of the national committee. So she was very much instrumental in ensuring the success of our recently held national competition here in Tobago.
And I smile when I hear you say that, because
Yes.
I think of the likes naturally. Well, I'm a past student of both Scarborough Secondary and Bishop's High School, and I recall the days of the Noel Sousa.
Mr. Sousa,
Sousa led in my time
yes.
as principal, and certainly Ms. Ramnarayan in the school system being very supportive, and I know now serving as principal. And that kind of support is so important. And I think you couldn't have said it better when you said you're preparing students for citizenship.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about getting a certificate, it's about that all-round development. And, you know, as we climax in terms of looking at this excitement, we couldn't have you on today and not talk about C that takes place tomorrow, the SEA exam.
Big day.
Tell us a little bit about that in terms of the kind of support and encouragement for our students heading on in tomorrow, and what are the numbers looking like for Tobago heading into the exams tomorrow?
Right. I want to say all systems are in place and we are ready for the successful conduct of the examination tomorrow. This year we have 1,034 students sitting the examination, 514 girls and 540 boys. All right, the numbers are not so far apart this year, right? In addition to that, we have 32 private candidates, because we do have private candidates who are part of the exam. They are usually students who the parents would have preferred to homeschool, and that's another big thing coming out of COVID. We have a number of parents who are electing to homeschool their children. And then we have 11 students who would have applied and successfully received concession. These are children who may have some special disability or diagnosed condition that they need additional assistance or additional time, or to be monitored, or to have a parent on standby during the exam because of various reasons. So we have 11 of those who will be getting that additional. So our examination supervisors and assistant supervisors and testers and monitors, everyone have been trained and are in place. They have the necessary forms to do whatever is required on the day. I know that usually there is usually a team coming out of the division on the day of the examination itself that will go to the schools to actually see what is happening at the end, you know. And what I really want to say this morning to all the parents and the children who are preparing is that you have done your best thus far. Your teachers have been working with you. You have been doing your work and so forth. And at this point in time, you need to relax. Parents, this is not the time to get the child to sit down and do 100 problems, etc. You know, this is the time to help them calm their nerves, etc. And, you know, relax so that the nerves will not act up. I want to encourage them to ensure that the children get to bed early tonight, to have a good night's rest, and get up on time so that they will ensure they are not late for the examination. And, you know, do your best, all the best to all our children. At the end of the day, be assured there is a space in a school in Trinidad and Tobago for you, because there are children who will sit the examination here, but they will put on the paper schools in Trinidad, and same way in Trinidad. So even though we are saying it's 1,054, you will find that it's quite possible that we'll have more children placed in the system here in Tobago, because there are children in Trinidad who will also indicate they want to come to Tobago schools. And we are having a sort of issue with numbers at the secondary schools because of the number, not necessarily coming out of SCA, but the numbers of children who are coming across seeking places at our high schools.
And imagine there was a time when we first introduced all these high schools across the nation, saying schools for all, that we wondered if we would ever find the amount of students to be able,
now we need additional
to be able to fill them. All right, so we want to say thank you so much, Sherry and Rollocks Hackett, School Supervisor 3 within the Division of Education, Research and Technology, for joining us on set here this morning. As I just got a WhatsApp message saying, hey, nice kind of insightful look into school supervision. All right, good to know that they're not just coming on when there's bacchanal or problems. All right, so kudos there. Joining us on set, Division of Education, Research and Technology. Viewers, we want to thank you so much for the continued love and support and for continuing to choose the Tobago Updates morning show. And we see in the lineup coming up next, we have Avery Seaton, Director of API Records Label. So we look forward to that conversation coming up next here on the Tobago Updates morning show. Those of you connecting with us online, I see Darky Sylvester online with us, Valana Kerr, Donut Dempster, Carol Fraser Davidson, Cindy Toussaint, Rodney Pickard, happy birthday to you. Auntie Dora Lyons, good morning to each and every one of you. Lisa James, Kuki Melville, Pearl Murray Beard, faithful viewers and supporters of the Tobago Updates morning show. Those of you joining us via TV, listening in on the radio, we say thank you. And to those of you online, we say thank you, and to remind you that this is your opportunity to share the live, share the live, share the live.